You're listening to the All Birdies No Bogeys Podcast, your weekly disc golf analysis podcast right here on JomezPro. And now, anywhere you get your podcasts. Finally, I'm your host, Brian Earhart. My co-host, Nate Perkins, is joining me again today. Episode 4. Nate, we just finished an incredible tournament in Austin, Texas, your former home. How are you feeling right now, my friend?
I'm doing just fantastic, Brian. I mean, extra innings for the MPO and almost a 6-stroke comeback in FPO. It was just an amazing day for disc golf, and I honestly feel like it's still my favorite sporting event to attend live. It's just incredible to be there and feel the tension just get popped by a big putt. It happened, countless times today, and I really feel like in those moments that I sometimes have the best job in the world, just walking around the course and getting to experience that.
It's something that I truly miss. I have not been on the course yet this year, and the energy from the fans, the players, those big moments, nothing quite does it justice like being right there on the ground. Holland Hanley gets another Elite Plus under her belt, Ledgestone, D-Glow, and now right here in Austin, Texas, she looks fantastic. Almost gave it away. So much to unpack here throughout this week. Let's go back to Sprinkle Valley and kind of get where it all started and talk about that.
Yeah, Sprinkle Valley, I mean, tight technical tracks are kind of the great equalizer in the FPO division. There's really no one that is just leagues ahead of the field in gap hitting. And that's exactly what you had to do out there. I mean, when we played this course for U.S. Women's last year, and it played tough. I don't know if you remember, Brian, but that final round, no one could get it going. Missy and Evelina, you weren't certain who really wanted the tournament. And that's because it's just hard to get on a rhythm out there. I mean, even a player like Tatar, a player like Holland, it's hard to really settle in when you're faced with a 3-foot gap or a 5-foot gap like 14 times throughout the round. So I love technical tracks like that. I think it's great for the game. I think that the viewing aspect of it on the network and on Jomez is at a premium. So
Great show this weekend for sure.
It's just really good stuff. And I mean, should we hop right into hole 18, the most talked about hole in all of disc golf?
I got to first slap you on the wrist. It's Kristen Lett Perkins. You got us with Tatar again. I'm going to slap you on the wrist. A couple more and the show might just get canceled. And I'm so sorry for the rest of the fans that have just gotten into the show. I'm going to hold Perkins to a high standard in that. But now that your wrist is a little red and bruised from the slap, let's get into hole number 18.
Well deserved.
I have a stat here. Over the past few years in the Disc Golf Pro Tour, there have been some really difficult holes in regards to the stat category of OB strokes per player on that hole. Hole 18 at Sprinkle Valley dwarfs the competition, 1.44 strokes OB per player on that hole for the FPO, and in the MPO division, it still leads the category, 0.79 OB strokes per player. So just an absolutely brutal hole. A lot of people talking about it all throughout the week. I love the challenge. I thought it was really entertaining. The hole doesn't seem very fair. The division doesn't seem ready for the design. What do you make of it watching the players play it all weekend?
Well, I think that a mistake was made with the rule setup on the hole. I don't think that there's any aspect of the hole that the FPO division can't successfully navigate. In a technical aspect, like the final shot that the designer is asking them to throw is, 220 to 175, right? Little berm in front of you. But it's the stroke and distance aspect of that hole, with the postage stamp green being the only thing in bounds. It's one of those things that the designer isn't trying to make the field suffer. The designer doesn't want to see 11, 12, 13 to finish the round. They want to challenge the field. But I think in this instance, Brian, they made a mistake. When we look at the scoring average and it's 3.55 over par, I think that they're just going to clear it up next year. And the answer that I heard from the FPO field is that it should just be hazard. Like if you miss that shot, you should be punished. You should have to find your disc in the dense mesquite trees, and you should have to try and get back onto the green. And you could still lose 1 or 2 strokes in that situation, but not just sit there and 10 cup it and completely derail your tournament. What did you make of it?
Well, again, I was there for the U.S. Women's. I was the on-course guy. I thought it was hard then. They changed it, and it played even harder this year. And there's all sorts of talk of why the change happened or who's responsible for it, blah, blah, blah. I don't really care. I know that we can make adjustments and make this better. A lot of the things I heard from FPO players that I spoke to, I made a bunch of phone calls. I tried to get as many opinions as I could back here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And they said, all you needed to do is give us a shot into that landing zone that's a little bit less fluky. Yeah. And the word fluky, I know sometimes is triggering. I don't mean it like that. I mean, if you're asking the players to stick that shot in a very specific little postage stamp, to then throw that blind island shot up there with the stairs, with the wind coming through the tunnel, make that shot there easier. So maybe a shorter tee pad to actually get yourself in position easier. And then maybe another drop zone at the top of the stairs if you go out of bounds the first time. And then it's stroke and distance or something like that. You're going to have to do something because it wasn't entertaining from I guess I can't say from a spectator standpoint because I'm only speaking about myself who was spectating it because some people liked it. But it just didn't seem like it hit the mark. But do I think there's huge potential to make the hole better? Absolutely. I think there's a few things you could do. The other problem with it was the flow. Apparently, there were 4 card backups on the hole that kind of slowed down the entire course. But yeah, I don't know. They tried something. It didn't work out. And, you know, for them as tournament organizers and course designers, it stings. It hurts to put so much work into something and then have people come and, you know, probably say some terrible things about it because, you know, you just took a big number on it. You're walking off the course and you have to get it out there to somebody. They have to shoulder all that and then make a decision. And what I will say is, before we dive into the rest of Sprinkle Valley and kind of what played out in the tournament, that facility is unbelievable. If we had a tour full of Sprinkle Valleys that just continued to refine themselves over time, I would be so thrilled for the sport of disc golf and the special thing we have. So not going to take anything away from the rest of the 17 holes in that property. Nate, what did you notice when it comes to the players in the mix out there starting out for 2 rounds?
I think that it's all about the gap hitting and the scrambling. I think that that's where the FPO division has the biggest difference in their skills is the scrambling versus the MPO, right? And the players there that are able to kind of throw these intuitive shots from like really nasty spots, or you know, an overhand shot every now and then, you know, being smart with your scrambling, it was the biggest difference maker for me because you take out hole 18 and only a few players are shooting under par. So you just need to get a few birdies and play clean golf, and to play clean out there, you're certainly going to have to scramble. So for me, it's just fun to see players like in tough positions and throwing shots that are a little out of their comfort zone.
Owen Scoggins told you she was feeling not 100%. She was injured. The forehand felt kind of weird. And then she pops off the hot round out there, even par, 1 birdie, 1 bogey, 1,006 rated opening round. What else did you hear about Owen or from Owen after that? And did you start to think maybe she was going to take this tournament down again?
Yeah, I was. I mean, I interviewed Owen in the press conference and got to speak to her quite a bit after that press conference interview, she is actually dealing with the same exact thing that Kristen was dealing with. It's the ulnar nerve entrapment, right? It's completely different than the injury that she's been dealing with in her elbow the last 2 seasons. And she was just kind of like hoping for an answer because it's not necessarily pain, it's more the numbness that she's feeling, that her arm from her elbow down into her fingertips is just like tingly. And it's just a scary thing as an athlete. You could just hear it in her voice, the level of concern, much different than just pushing through overuse. But to even see her throw some of the shots that she did, knowing that she's dealing with the numbness, it was unbelievable. I mean, she's still busting out the flex forehand. She's even dipping into a couple hyzer shots. And then, the putting. The putting is just, she's still at the tip of the iceberg for both MPO and FPO, even from range. Like, she was hitting some 55-footers, like low ceiling, under the mesquites to save par. Unreal stuff from Owen. And you won the Perks pick, dude. Didn't she get podium?
Of course I won the Perks pick. I saw her climbing up that final round, and I was elated to have beaten you in that category because it was kind of a stretch taking her against the rest of the field with a brand new course. And she didn't win the U.S. Women's Championship when she played here last. Well, let's dive into the winner. Holland Hanley wins the Elite Plus event on a lot of wooded disc golf. What are you seeing from her developing? This is an early win, and this is, again, continuing the trend of her becoming one of the most well-rounded players out there on the tour and potentially the most physically talented player that FPO has right now.
I can confidently say the most well-rounded, has the most angles, I feel like is the only category that she's lacking in, and potentially the most important category is the mental aspect of it. And even there, I think she's really close to the top. As far as Holland's comfort in the woods, she was struggling during round one, but the putter saved her, kept her in it. 18 bit her pretty bad both days. She really won this entire tournament on the back nine of round three, which is rare to say, 4-round tournament. But what she's able to tap into with those forehand shots, I mean, Kristen is someone that relies on the forehand quite a bit, but Holland throws it further. She has more angles. It's a greater weapon. Holland has a better forehand than Kristen.
Man, that's a big take. I think there are certain elements of the forehand that I would give to Holland. If you're going to ask me who I want to get up and down with, one of those sand wedge type discs, zone, harp from like 250, I'm taking Kristen, and I'll put a blindfold on her and up the odds and still take the bet. She's, to me, that much better at that shot. Yeah, she sawed a couple off this weekend, but she still takes that for me. I think they have different throwing styles. Overall, on the backhand side, Kristen is very short, compact. She has a really quick cross step. She pumps a little bit on the first step, and it's shorter everything, but quicker. Holland is like a slingshot. It's kind of long. She draws it all out, and then it explodes last minute. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think overall physical talent, I'm with you. I think Holland takes it. Kristen has those X Factor champion ability. She has that aura that takes her kind of to the next level, and that's why she's consistently performing like she is.
Well, that's actually what I really wanted to get your take on, Brian, is exactly that. And I think that's good phrasing for it as well. The championship aura. It's something that I definitely see with Kristen, but I remember seeing with Paul Macbeth, and it had a name, right? It was McBeast mode. And the thing is that both Kristen now and Paul then, it seemed like they were able to kind of harness the power of the belief that other players were giving them, right? Like, obviously Kristen and Paul, they believe in themselves, but it seemed like other players would allow the story to unfold for those champions. So I want to ask you, like, is there any legitimacy to that? Do you feel like Kristen is able to kind of capitalize on maybe like Holland and other people in the division, like giving her the power to kind of will herself to victory.
Well, let's go back to Paul. Paul, at age 17, he told me this story on the Flight Diary podcast a few years ago. He said that even when he was a teenager, his dream, once he really fell in love with disc golf, was to change the landscape of the sport of disc golf, evolve it past what it was when he found it. That's a pretty profound belief, a pretty outrageous dream to have, to elevate disc golf to what it is now when you're just a kid back in the 2000s. It's that profound belief in yourself and the ability to dream really big when not many people understand it is what makes those types of champions so great. LeBron James, for example, is called the king at age 18 when he hadn't proved himself yet at all, and somehow stepped up and kept the expectations rising and kept meeting the expectations year after year.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do that. It takes, again, a profound belief in oneself to do that. Another one, this is from a book called How Champions Think by Bob Rotella. There's a golfer named Pat Bradley. She was an LPGA player, 1970s, 1980s. 11 years in, she only had one victory on tour. This is 11 years of playing golf professionally. She started working with Bob Rotella. He asked her what her goals were moving forward. She said, I want to be a Hall of Famer. After 11 years and one win. After that moment, she went on to win 31 LPGA events, 6 major titles, and made the Hall of Fame. There are very talented people in this world, but there are some that have this weird ability to dream bigger than everybody else and then live up to it and mold their lives around that. And those are the ones that separate themselves from the rest. And I think Kristen has that, and you see it in a lot of these people because of the way they change the game around them and how other people have to react to them. I remember, and you remember, how people spoke about Kristen in 2023 when she was doing what she was doing, the Grand Slam year. And look what the competition looks like now. They all know what they have to do to win. And now the fruits of that labor and that dreaming are now coming, and Kristen has to work harder than ever to beat these people. And Holland is one of those players that knew that the target is on Kristen, and it's still on Kristen. It's not like Holland showing up like, I'm the front runner. Maybe she is, but I think she deep down knows that, like, Kristen is the champion. And even when she has a bad day, she's going to still bring it. And that's kind of what happened this weekend. We moved into Harvey Pennock, and Holland blanks out the back 9 in round 3. Talk about how everything played out.
Well, she has 6 strokes, and then she gets 2 on hole 1. She has 8. And then all of a sudden, we get back into the woods. She gives up 6 in 3 holes, and the panic is kind of set in. I can kind of see her kind of retreat to Tyler. She's talking with him, and I saw him kind of calm her down before she threw her tee shot on 9. Kristen actually throws it OB on 9. Tyler kind of looks over at Holland like, it's all good. Your other competitors are going to make some mistakes too. She gets, I think she got 2 back on her in that stretch on 9 and 10. But then just so many opportunities to kind of close the door, and they both just kept making mistakes. More so Holland was making mistakes to kind of let Kristen in. And it seemed like the story was unfolding, that Holland was once again going to let it slip away on Sunday. I mean, it was the beginning of last year. I think it was 6 tournaments where she had the lead going into Sunday and let it slip away until she finally capitalized at Beaver State for her first one. So Holland has 2 going into the 18th hole, which is incredibly daunting tee shot. OB all up the left side, OB right. There's a late mandatory, super important tee shot. Kristen pimps it, right? Puts it in the middle of the fairway. Holland's legitimately sweating. Like, her heart rate is through the roof, and throws a pretty good shot off onto the right side. She's in a position to just kind of pitch a forehand, and she hits the tree like right in front of her on the left side and puts her in a terrible spot, right? Now, Kristen had a huge opportunity. I thought she was going to play the flex, Brian, up on the right side and just drop it into C1. And she went with the wide forehand and just kind of pushed it into the trees. So Holland pitches into C1. Kristen has to try and make it from C2, hits the band. It was wild finish, man. It just, I didn't know which way it was going to go. It seemed like Holland was going to give it up, and Kristen missed what I would call a 90% up and down for her. And taking a look at this putt now for those watching on Jomez, look at that, Brian. Top band. That was for the birdie. And so Holland just gets to lay it up. It's crazy.
So funny when you interview Holland on the green of 18. This is the most Holland Hanley thing ever. Your question is, what's your pulse right now? Do you have a tracking of your heartbeat? And Holland goes, well, actually, I do. It's 124. She has a heart rate monitor on right now and gave you that answer. It's such an engineer thing. And I love when two different minds go head to head. You have Kristen that's on one side. She's more, would you call it left-brained? What one is more creative thinking and more like in tune with like consciousness and enlightenment and emotional, things like that. Holland is straight up procedural engineer, mechanics, and they're both battling head to head. That's the beautiful thing about our game.
Yeah.
And what do you pick up from talking to Holland after the victory?
Oh man, right before I interviewed her, she was just like, whoa, Nathan, that was, I don't know, that was crazy. That was crazy. She's just beside herself. And yeah, I had asked her two good friends, Raven Klein and Ella Hansen. They were, of course, right there by the green of 18. And I asked them, like, what would you ask her in this moment? And it was actually their insight. They were like, just ask her what her heart rate is. So it kind of broke the ice a little bit. And then, yeah, Holland got to talk about the golf and how she and Tyler were able to chat with each other and just kind of settle her nerves. And yeah, you just always wonder what they're going through when the pressure is really mounting to that level in the home stretch. Because even just as the spectator, just being there, like my hands are sweating. They're sweating because I'm feeling what I think that they're going through. So to be able to even execute even a routine shot is just impressive and fun to watch.
Kristen takes down Waco. She goes 3 in a row. Now Holland takes it here in Austin. Ella wins at Olympus. What's the year going to keep looking like? Are we going to keep getting unique winners, or is it going to shape up to be a 2-horse battle, like a Holland-Kristen battle? What do you make of the past few performances we've seen?
I don't think we're going to have too many unique winners. I think Rebecca Cox is going to get a win this year, but I really feel we're going to see some Kristen dubs, Holland dubs, Ella for sure. Missy's going to win. I think Pierce can still get up in there and win. I think Cap Merch might win a tournament or two. So FPO, it's in a good spot right now. There's a lot of up and coming names that are going to make some flashes soon. But I think the tip top, we're seeing it with these last 3 events. And yeah, it's good stuff, man. FPO's in a good spot.
Moving on to MPO. We back up to Sprinkle Valley. A lot different narrative on that course for this division. We're not hearing that the design is way too difficult. We're not hearing that hole 18 is giving players 20s in their qualifying rounds. What did you pick up from the players? What was the narrative on the ground for MPO?
Yeah, initially it was hard to get a bead on what the players thought that the hot runs were going to be. I was talking to some guys that had absolutely no idea. I mean, Bradley Williams, he just wasn't really keyed in. He's like, I don't know. I mean, a 7, an 8, kind of depends on the wind. And no one was really saying that it was going to get shredded. And yet I kind of had a feeling that when you're hitting gaps and you're keyed in on a couple discs, you can shred out there. And that's exactly what you had to do. I think some players, they finish around, they shoot 5, feeling pretty good about it, and then they're back 7 strokes all of a sudden. So totally different story in the MPO. You had to slice and dice out there. You had to link some birdies together, and you had to play smart in the wind on some of those opening finishing holes. And then 18 was no walk in the park for them either. We saw it burn quite a few people. Burned Calvin Heimberg. He took a 12 on
Oof.
it. Took a 12 on it, Brian, first round. Then comes back and shoots at 12 the next day. It was tough. It was a tough track in the sense that you knew you had to shred. Like after day one, you knew like there were 2 12s, there were 3 10 downs, like several 9 downs. So it was tough in that regard. Not necessarily every single hole challenging them to the max, but just in general having to play at such a high level when the lines are that tight.
So obviously, we're gonna leave this in the past. FPO layout needs to get tweaked a little bit to score a little bit better, especially if the course design idea for FPO is that we want par to be the goal. It's got to get tweaked a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But for MPO, here are some things I really liked about their layout. There were multiple styles of design on multiple different holes. I'm thinking of 7 and 8 back to back, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Hole number 7, multiple options. You get that kind of John Houck style, choose your own adventure type play. And I can't just say it's John Houck. Mike Olst does quite a good job at that as well. But hole 8 on the other side, Yuli in Jomez commentary is like, you're going to have to get a special disc for this line.
Mm-hmm.
It's not choose your own adventure. The destiny is already chosen for you, and you have to find what disc is going to fly that line. There were holes where players were pushed off to certain sides of the tee pad,
Mm-hmm.
and they were forced to kind of throw these really hard pushing hyzers that flip up, or you can move over and throw a chop flex forehand. Yeah, let's see some of these other lines, like players having to push left right away, but you can't go too left. You actually have to harsh or mellow out the fade of the disc. This kind of stuff is cool to me in wooded course design. I don't like when a course makes you throw a specific line every single time,
Yeah.
but I also don't like when there's way too many options. I like when we can force players to do some skills that are uncomfortable for them. And I feel like this course really did that.
I agree, Brian. I mean, I think that this is where disc golf it lives. It's where it really shines when players are having to throw multi-angle stuff when there's not a lot of room to work with. I mean, it makes the shot so much more complex than just like smoking a one-angle hyzer out in the open. And I think there's just so many people that agree with that. So Sprinkle Valley is just, I think we'll be returning here. I think it was a huge success, even, you know, even with the hiccup with 18.
That kind of stuff happens. It's
Yeah.
okay. I think the idea for the people who are in charge of changing it is to just take feedback objectively, not good, bad, yes, no. Take the data in, and then put the data up against your goals for the hole and for the course, and continue to make changes. I mean, we've seen this with multiple courses on the tour, and over time they've become really, really solid. Northwood Black, I think, is a prime example of that. Of course, when it first went in, it was a little bit too much, and then over time it's thinned out. Holes have changed, basket positions have changed, and it's scoring really dynamically for the field. So, yeah, I love it. I think the venue's phenomenal. Let's jump into the battle that unfolded when we went to Harvey Penick.
Man, hats off to Kyle Klein. First of all, I can't imagine what he was going through trying to go wire to wire on these guys. I want to talk about round 3. Kyle, front 9, just couldn't find the putter. Right, it was windy. It was blowing 20 miles per hour out of the south, and Harvey Penick is just it's a hard putting course. There's so many situations where it's hard to park the hole, so you know you're going to have a, circle's edge look, uphill, downhill, crosswinds, headwinds. So it's already a hard putting course, and then Kyle kind of putts on that hyzer release. So many times he was just in a weird spot and couldn't find the putter. But for me, what I picked up End of round three, I'm talking to him, interviewing him for the Disc Golf Network, and he is just lost. He doesn't
Yeah.
he isn't able to key in on, hey, I just put myself in some weird spots and they were hard putts. Instead, he was kind of an emotional wreck. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what was going on. And man, it really just isn't indicative of a champion, right? When, you talk to, when we're talking to Gannon Burr, for example, the man's keyed in. He's like, hey, I had some tricky putts. I missed a
Yeah.
couple low. I pulled a couple right, trying to adjust with this specific wind on this specific putt. And on the other side of the coin, Kyle was just, it was all fuzzy, right? So I was worried about his chances going into the final round. And honestly, he showed up. He clutched up in some really difficult spots, and they were pressing. Nicholas got their first five, unbelievable stuff, and Gannon was pushing. So for Kyle to even stay in the mix as long as he did, with the emotional ride that he was on, I mean, he ends up losing the tournament, but hats off to the man.
There was a point, especially in round three, when he was just struggling with the putter. It looked like he kind of lost it. He didn't have the stroke in the wind and couldn't quite make the right reads. He kept kind of throwing his hands up, muttering under his breath, and it kind of looked like he was. I don't know exactly the analogy. It looked like he was maybe trying to blow into the Nintendo cartridge and then put it back in the machine, and it still didn't work, and he was just frustrated, like, why doesn't it work? I keep trying. I don't know what else is going to happen. I don't know what else I can do.
Trying to play
He
Banjo
was
Kazooie.
Yeah, I just want to play Link to the Past. But
That's good. That's good. No, I
know the
noticed that,
feeling.
man. He was
I
struggling.
know
out
the
there.
feeling.
Oh man, can you imagine the people chasing him? I mean, for Nicholas to get the first five, did you see the roller on three? The rollers that they're throwing up the hill on three into the wind, just incredible stuff. Oh, here we go.
And
Roller on three.
this is Nicholas's roller on three, and this is after an unbelievable shot on hole number two. So this is back-to-back rollers that he throws with a flippy driver in two different terrains to get inside circle one and set him up for scoring. This one is just gross.
This
I mean,
is
there's a tree to
insane,
miss
Brian.
here on hole two, second shot.
Look, there's
And this,
OB
to
right.
me, yeah, there's OB right. And just to stick a roller in the bullseye, can we zoom out and just think about what that even is? You're just rolling an object that far. I don't care if it's a bike tire that you choose. Like, you can pick any object and it will not be easy to roll into a 33-foot circle that far away, and to do it 2 rounds in a row with wind. It showed me that Nicklaus showed up to play, and he showed up to score. And it was a treat to behold. Philo on coverage said it perfectly. Those are shots you don't get to just read a book and learn.
No.
You have to feel those shots. You have to have a really close relationship with the disc that you're throwing on that. And it showed me that Nicklaus was really locked in today. What did you pick up from his demeanor on the ground?
Oh, it's the essence of the X factor, right? Like, he just embodies that. He's able to drop into a state of presence that it's hard to find as an athlete, right? It's the great question, like, how do you drop into the moment and throw these high level shots? Like, even that hyzer there on the 13th, I mean, it's high level. It's at the upper end of his range on hyzer with the driver. And for me, that's what's so impressive about Nikkei, is that a lot of the times, like, he doesn't have the same physical prowess that like Anthony Barella or Gannon Burr does, right? A lot of the times, Nicholas is reaching kind of the upper end of his distance limit, and yet he's dropping these drivers in softly into the bullseye. So he's, what I think, is throwing higher level shots time and time again, when you compare that to kind of the window that a guy like Barella or Burr can operate in, right? Like, go ahead, Brian.
Well, what I wanted to say real quick, you mentioned his physical prowess. I talked to Mike Sizemore at Tech Disc, and I said, "Hey, have you tracked any numbers from Niklas? Is there anything you could pull from your database for me?" And he says, "Not
Yeah.
off the top of my head, nothing that I've tracked, but to my knowledge, he's right at like 70 for like a full
Hmm.
power shot with like 1250 RPM. So that's just barely getting you above 500 feet. And he
Okay.
went and he eagled the par five. Talk about that, Nate. That to me was the pivotal moment in this round. I
Hmm.
couldn't believe it. He stretched out his max potential to get that three.
Yeah, to even decide to go for it off the tee like that, in with the situation what it was, he pulls it off the tee, right? Turns it a little too much, misses the tree. Gallery barely gets out of the way. Dude's trying to pick up his stool,
Oh, no.
doesn't quite pick it up. He doesn't quite pick up the stool, and
Oh, man.
barely gets back in bounds. Klein actually throws the forehand a little further than Nicholas. So Nicholas has to drop this. This is pushing 500 feet, slightly downhill. But again, Brian, this is the far end of his range, like you just said. And it's at the biggest moment in the round, and he puts it at 25 feet. So to repeat those shots time and time again is what I think is the most impressive thing about it. It's not just to do it the one time, but to have the full control over the driver when it matters. He's got it, and I think that he's just, I mean, a symbol for sports in Finland. Like, the dude's an icon, and he's kind of taking the torch and running with it.
Yeah, it was another instant classic. It was so awesome. I thought he was going to hit that 58-footer. I thought it was going to be another circle two putt for the win.
Same.
That shot, that stable, I think it's a tactic that he's
It
throwing,
is.
that red one.
The sea
I
line.
thought he was going to do the same thing, throw it on the ante, push it to pin high, make it. Ends up a little
Same.
bit short. But then we go to a playoff, and again, it ends on hole 18. Just unbelievable. And real quick, I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember our producer, Mahmood, the director of the Disc Golf Network? I don't know his exact role, but he was trying to push this Big Four narrative on us. Like, he's like, you guys got to talk about the Big Four, Klein,
Yeah.
Antala, AB, and Burr. And at first we're like, well, we just have to wait to see how good they're actually going to be. And then literally the quote-unquote Big Four is the lead card going into the final day. And Ricky and Paul are on the chase card leading it, multiple strokes behind them. It was just crazy symbolism to start it out too. Like the new guard is here for sure.
They are here, and I'm here for it, man. This is, I really think that this weekend I kind of felt that resurgence of the game. Not that I really bought any of the, the rumors that it was fizzling away, but just I was standing behind the basket of 17, watching the shots come in, final round, and Nicholas threw first and puts it in the circle, and it lit up behind me. I'm just getting chills down my arms. Like, they're just screaming, just feet behind me. There's like 2,500 people or something. And then did you see Klein like pull it inside, like totally yanked on it, misses everything, and puts it like 15 feet away? It was a crazy stroke of luck, and actually Nicholas talked about that in the post round interview. He mentioned that some players around him were getting some luck, and it was a challenge for him to kind of persevere through that. Right? He's like, what can I do? Like, the man, he should have gone OB here. He should have gone OB on the 18th. So it's an interesting thing, because everyone gets lucky in a tournament, but for Kyle to get lucky on 17, then 18, and then 18 in the playoff, he should have gone OB.
Yeah.
It was just a wild ride.
But that's golf, and I think these guys, as much as he's saying people were getting lucky, I had to work around it,
Yeah.
he knows just as much as we do that at the end of your life, you're going to see the number of good kicks and the number of bad kicks pop up in front of you right before you pass on to the next life. They're going to be about even. You're going to have just as many good kicks as you do bad kicks, and that kind of stuff just happens in disc golf, and it's hard to accept, but a guy like Niklas can talk about it and not be too upset about it, because he's probably gotten some lucky kicks in his day as well. Unbelievable tournament. I think the parity is just phenomenal in this division right now. I think the amount of young players that are finally getting to the point where they believe that they're the best player in the world is making it really exciting. And I think we're going to have a lot of unique winners week to week. Ezra Robinson made a charge today, too. He almost won this tournament. He totally had a chance. I also have to give a shout-out. Gavin Phillips aced twice this tournament at 2 different courses. Gavin Phillips aces 17 at Sprinkle, and he aces 15 at Harvey Pennock. I do not care how you shot. I do not care that you didn't win this tournament. You get to carry that with you for the rest of your life, Gavin. Congratulations. I am also a 2
Why couldn't he
boy.
ace? Why couldn't he ace like last week for the
Unreal.
Perks pick?
Nope. Sorry, Nate. Well, Nate, you asked for 4 aces at Waco. That was just a
That was
terrible,
dumb.
terrible choice.
No, it's a terrible pick. We're
All right.
Yeah, you are. I overtalked on you, Brian. You aced twice in the same tournament. High level aces too. It's insane. Those are legendary.
And it was a great time because I was at DDO in 2019. The Swedish bonfire was going. All the AMs were there. There was a huge party, and I was the talk of the town. I was walking left and right. People were buying me drinks, food. What a night. But you know what, Gavin, I hope you celebrated as well, because that is now an elite club you join.
Yeah,
But
it really is.
Nate, we got to jump into grading these courses. We have 2 courses now, and I really like both of them. Let's talk about it. Let's start out at Sprinkle Valley. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that Sprinkle Valley. Let's see. I'm gonna pull my notes up here, Brian, because we've got setting, and we've got infrastructure, design, prestige. Setting for me, Brian, is really high here. I love the diversity of the oaks, the cedars, and the mesquite. I think the cedars make great disc golf rough. I'm going 8 on the setting. I'm going 7 on the design. I'm going 8 on the infrastructure, and I'm going low on the prestige only because we need time. I'm going 4 on the prestige. I think the Open at Austin, it's got some legs underneath it now. Stetson hat, love the trophies. I think it's a hard title to take down. You've got to navigate 2 courses, 2 very dynamic courses, but it just needs a little time for the history to really build up before I go higher on the prestige.
And also, we're not ending at Sprinkle Valley. I think if it was flipped, I think the prestige score would be a little bit higher, but like you said, we need some time. So I'm a very similar score to you. For me, setting, I give this place a 9. I give it an A. I think it's the first 9 that I've given, maybe the second. We're in Austin, Texas. One of the best disc golf communities in the world is
Hands
right
down.
here. The city is right there. You have everything you could ever want. Also, we have a brewery on site. We have so much space for people to park. Apparently, there's great trailer parking for the operations crew. There's an internet access point all the way back on 16 for cell signal. So I think they had to set up a CBRS, which is like a little pop-up cell tower in one spot. But overall, cell signal was great. So people on the ops crew, the media department, they were very satisfied. There's space for an on-site booth. There's stuff for everybody, players, staff, spectators. The one thing that took points away for me, actually, we'll get to that in infrastructure. So 9 setting, design 7. I'd give it an 8, a high 8, maybe even a 9, if the FPO can get to a good scoring place. If we can get that layout tweaked and get 18 to finish a little bit differently, and maybe get closer to that goal that I believe some of the people who designed the course said they want to get to. When you want par to be the goal, scoring definitely needs to change from what it was. So 7 design, still good. That's a B. Prestige, I gave it a 5. Similar reason to you.
Yeah.
But not saying that it can't get there.
It'll get there. It'll get
and
there.
Then infrastructure, I give it an 8. I give it an 8 for infrastructure because I think, actually, for all the reasons that I said, for setting on accident. Cell signal's good. Amenities are good. The one thing is, apparently, if you're not super familiar with disc golf, and especially the course itself, getting around was a little bit tricky. I heard there were
Yeah.
some people that were having a tough time walking into fairways that they didn't know they were walking into, and course flow can always improve and signage can always improve, and that's why I give it an 8. So overall, fantastic course. What do you
Yeah, I
think?
mean,
Yeah,
well, I just want to touch on that. It's the formula is not that complicated, right? I mean, you got a brewery, you got some land. Like, let's pour our patrons some beer and let's put on a show for them. Let's put, there's so many
yeah,
spots out there where you can just kick back and enjoy high level disc golf. And there was a band playing there every night. They had a little putting game. They have a putting course set up kind of like behind 18. So it just kind of taps into what I feel like we're still missing is that not necessarily party aspect, but kind of community, bubble around it. Like let's play some side games. Let's listen to some music. Like let's make this experience like all encompassing and just have a good time out there.
yeah. At the end of the day, do the players want to come back, and then do the fans want to come back?
Yeah.
At this place, 150%. I am so sad that I did not get to be on site this year. So high praise for Sprinkle Valley. I think there's only potential for making this course even better in the future. Let's move to Harvey Penick, a golf course that has kind of a unique relationship with the tour and disc golf in general. They have all these trees on site, and unlike some places where there's conservation efforts to keep things the way they are, there's very few trees that you can actually remove. This place says these trees aren't really a problem. Remove what you need to remove to make a good disc golf course. And that's why we got such good wooded golf out of this property. So unique place. What do you think?
Yeah, I really enjoy Harvey Penick, and it's not too often that I have that sentiment with a ball golf course. I think setting for me is a 6 because we're right next to 183. You have the highway. There's still that road noise, and it is sometimes hard to fully drop into just being a disc golf course, right? But there is the Walnut Creek, which we crossed a few times with some sweet bridges, and there's some really big pecan trees that they did a good job of utilizing for some of the shapes. And they did a ton of work cutting through those same pecan groves and oak groves, making some of those technical holes like 6, 7, and 8. Setting 6, design 8. I think it's rare to have a golf course with also a technical aspect to it. And I think that a lot of the greens are punishing, but they're not too punishing. And there's just some great moments where players are going to have to attempt some really uncomfortable putts. And then infrastructure is really high, 8. I think we had like 2,000 spectators out there today, and if talking with some of the ops crew, they felt like that we could even go double. So I think the Pro Tour is going to kind of double down on Harvey Penick. It's easy to get fans in there, parking. There's a great area by 1 and 18 where the vendors were set up, the bands were playing each night, and just a great atmosphere out there. There was a big screen behind near hole 1's tee, so you could kind of watch the network and watch players tee and watch players finish. So, and then which one am I missing, B? Which one did I? Oh, Prestige. Similar situation. Prestige of 5 for me. We need a little bit more time to kind of build the history here and kind of tell the story of the Open at Austin.
Good takes. Good takes overall. I am a little bit different. For setting, I give it a 7. It's just, we're going to find over the course of this show, when I see a golf green and when I see a golf bunker, it could be the most wonderful symbiotic relationship with disc golf and traditional golf. And it still hurts me to see. I don't know why. So I give it a 7 for setting. I know we're in Austin. I know the elevation is beautiful. I know the trees are beautiful. And what they've done with the place is awesome. And they really do a good job of making you feel like you're not on a traditional golf course most of the time. It's just when you come out into the open, it kind of stings my eyes a little bit, but that's just a personal problem. 7.5 for design. I think same reason as you. I'm going through the caddy book. I'm looking at the different holes, and I don't see too many holes that I am frustrated by, or holes that I look at and go, oh, you really missed something obvious. I think there's a lot of diverse shots. I think there's places to go aggressive. I think there's places for heroics. We saw some rollers come out of players, and it was a tasteful amount of rollers because it bothers me when that's the only thing players do. And there's a mix of power, placement, and technicality. So kudos to people involved with this, making this this golf course look a lot like a disc golf specific facility. Prestige, I think it's a little bit higher. I think with all the fans that are coming out, to go and perform for the Austin disc golf community, it's been out here long enough to where people know what to expect when they come now. It's getting better and better each year. The Stetson hat for the trophy, it does matter. You know what you're playing for. And clearly it means a lot to the players that win. They really want this victory. So I give it a 7 for prestige. The history element is low, but I think there are some other elements coming up that make it really memorable to win here. Infrastructure, I give it a 7. With all the things that you said that were good about it, I did hear from the ops crew that there was some struggles with power and internet out there on the course. Overall cell signal was good. They had to do some work to get things in place, but it's a little bit lower on the infrastructure side to me than Sprinkle Valley. But overall, I am thrilled with these courses. I think there's tons of work left to be done, but I think there's only upside for the foreseeable future. And huge shout out for getting a classic Texas course designer involved with this tournament. Michael's got to do a ton at Sprinkle Valley, and I'm just stoked for more in the future. Anything else about these courses, Nate, that you want to key in on?
Man, I kind of just want to tell a little story about Neil Dombra, PDJ number 200, and John Hauk. They were at Harvey Pinnock round 3, and they're just kind of sitting on a bench together, and they're just kind of like pointing out, like looking at the crowd, kind of, and it felt like they were both kind of reflecting on where disc golf has come, and just kind of in awe of it. I mean, they've both been in the game for such a long time, and to see it all unfold like this with 2,000 people coming, and just the whole experience coming together, and players from all over the world coming to compete for the title. It was just a cool moment, and I got to go over there and kind of chat with them a little bit about what has come from the work that they've put in.
That is a precious story, Mr. Perkins. And funny enough, I was talking to Scott Kesey at DGA, and just the other day, and he said, "Man, if
Cool.
Steady
Love
Ed
Scott.
if Steady Ed could see where disc golf is now, he would be just first off overwhelmed with joy, but just really satisfied and happy with where we are." And I think perspective is a really powerful thing. And Nate, with that, we're wrapping up the regular show here, and we're gonna kind of go to school again. It's history class yet again.
I'm
It's
ready.
your second lesson, Nate, and I'm gonna take the listeners on a little journey. We're getting close to the 1960s. We're getting close to the explosion of Frisbee culture, an actual culture blowing up for the Frisbee world. But there's one last thing that I have to talk about. So previously we talked about where the name Frisbee came from. It came from the pie tins, the prototype of the Pluto platter, the first plastic flying Frisbee that was sold commercially. It was not inspired by the pie tin. It was the name that actually ended up inspiring it. But what happened after the name was acquired? Sales didn't rise pretty much at all. So Whammo's sitting there with this trademark. They thought this clever idea of taking this Kleenex type name where people just call any flying object a Frisbee now was going to benefit them. Didn't happen. They came out with another disc called the Sailing Satellite, trying to get that to raise their sales. That didn't do much. got to a point where the people at Whammo were like, I don't know if this is going to last much longer. I don't know if people just don't want to buy these. Maybe it was just a fad, and we missed out on it. A little thing called the hula hoop comes out in 1958, and it was an overnight global phenomenon. Everyone wanted to have a hula hoop. Every kid, every adult, everyone bought one. And Whammo was printing money for a very short period of time. And what happened was salespeople started getting inundated by calls from department stores, sporting goods stores. Where do I get these hula hoops? How many can I buy? Whammo goes, okay. If you spend this much money, you'll get free shipping and save a bunch of money. But then they made it to where you could only buy a certain amount of hula hoops at one time, and it was just under that threshold to get free shipping. So what did people buy to push them over that threshold? Frisbees. So what happened was the Frisbee essentially rode the coattails of the hula hoop, got in department stores, sporting goods stores all over the country, and after the hula hoop died out and people just kind of stopped buying them because they got their hula hoop, Frisbees were a very steady and consistent seller for Whammo. And it was essentially saved, at least from what it says here in the book Chain of Events by Jim Palmieri that we're kind of going off of right now. So, with that said, it rose up very quickly. People thought that it was going to be a big deal. It wasn't, but thanks to a different toy, Frisbees stayed on and continued forward. And that's going to be the next lesson, because the next thing that we're going to talk about next week is the explosion of this now that all these flying discs are in the stores all over the country. So, folks, take your notes. We're going to take you through this entire book throughout the entire season, and you're going to be able to share this wonderful history with your friends, family, coworkers, and anyone that wants to hear or doesn't want to hear. Nate, that's about it for All Birdies No Bogeys. What else do you have for the people?
You know, when I hear the word Frisbee, I almost look up to the sky and turn into a golden retriever. It's just such a charged word for me. Like, it's one of my favorite things ever. I love disc golf. Disc golf is sweet, but running underneath a Frisbee that has been thrown to you by your friend is one of the best feelings I've ever experienced. So I'm all on board for this Frisbee lesson and can't wait to see how it kind of evolves into disc golf, of course.
Well, folks, thank you so much for tuning in and putting up with the two of us yet again. We will see you next week right here on All Birdies No Bogeys, on JomezPro, and anywhere else you get your podcast. We'll see you next time.